How's it going, everyone? In today's video, I just wanted to talk about how I got into audio engineering and music production and give you some tips that I have found to be very beneficial in building my career in the music industry. If you find this content helpful, definitely give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more similar content. Anyways, let's get right into this video. Everybody knows that the music industry is exclusive. It's hard to make a living from creating or helping others to create music. The reason for this is pretty simple. With today's technology, anybody can start making and producing their own music. It's fun, creative, and easy to see the progress that you've made. It's a naturally rewarding skill. However, due to the nature of this skill, hobby, or career, what have you, there are many people trying to do the same thing. The skill is very oversaturated with people trying to make a living from their music or musical skills. Not only is it oversaturated, but there really aren't any jobs in this field that you can just apply for. It's essentially a proving ground, kind of a survival of the fittest type of environment. It sounds intimidating if you've dedicated a large portion of your life to this creative outlet and you want to try and make it a career. And it really is, but the good news that I have experienced in my personal journey is that talent and skill are not the only things that will dictate your success. Something that you need to understand is that this skill takes a long time to develop. For the vast majority, training your ears to recognize and recall detail and sound is not something that is actively practiced in day-to-day life. Generally speaking, the attention to detail is usually spent on what we see. Sounds catch our attention, but a normal person doesn't break down the character and makeup of a sound. I'm assuming you're not paying attention to the higher frequency content of a car when it passes by on the street, and trust me, I could make a whole nother video on why this is. The point is, training your ears takes time and experience. For this reason, time spent in this field means a lot, and long-term engineers, 99% of the time, will not only create higher quality products, but will also do it more efficiently. From my experience, it's definitely a respect your elders scenario. There are very few situations where a multi-decade engineer will be bested by a newbie, for a lack of a better term. But as I previously mentioned, being successful doesn't fully depend on how good you are. There are a few traits and mentalities that I have utilized that have greatly helped me in gaining more opportunities and trust from the music community. So I'm going to talk about attitude, determination, and perseverance, and what these traits can do for you on your music-based career path. All of these traits can get your foot in the door and grant you more opportunities even if you have very little experience. And more opportunities equates to more experience, which is the thing the majority of us are lacking in. When you are looking for that first gig within the scope of music and sound, no matter what it is, your attitude will have a huge impact moving forward in your career. Everybody starts somewhere, whether you write a hit tune on your first production attempt or a local band pays you $20 to mix their bar gig. Your attitude is key to moving forward. Let's take this more realistic scenario of mixing a local band at a bar. If you go into this gig thinking that because you're not getting paid enough and they're only playing for a handful of people, it doesn't really matter how hard you work at the mix. Chances are, even if you have a great mix, you're now just another audio engineer in the pre-existing lot. You may be able to do it just fine, but there are probably at least 20 other people in your city who can do the exact same thing. You need to make yourself part of the team. Go into that gig portraying passion for helping this small band improve their sound, regardless of pay or how insignificant they might be. If you work hard and do everything you can, that band will notice your intention. They will be more likely to feel that you're not just in it for a quick buck, but to help them actually improve their performance. This is how you can stand out in the crowd. Your presence becomes less of a fill-in position to being more of a part of the team. Being open and sharing your passion speaks on your consistency. Even if your mix is basic and nothing special, the ability for the band to trust and rely on you is so important, especially in the production field. And most people understand that experience only comes with time anyways. Everybody starts somewhere, like I said. As long as you're honest and dependable, the people you want to work for will be far more likely to give you those opportunities you need to eventually master your craft. Be genuine. Be passionate. If you're truly willing to do whatever it takes to become successful with music, that's passion. Let it show. People will eventually take notice. Determination is the second part of this, and it really is simple. Don't give up. If you really want it, you will get it. Maybe not exactly as planned, but the ability to not let a mistake or failure throw you off course will pay off. So I'm currently 24 years old, and I'm proud to say that I work at a studio as a recording and mix engineer. What's interesting is that I'm at the age in this profession where people know comparatively I do not have all that much experience. It's just how it is. So I've had to use a different strategy to build my reputation. This strategy was to just always be there and be available. I've made it my priority. About 4 years ago, I spent some time calling around to different studios, seeing if they would take an intern for the summer. Eventually, I found one willing to take me in. It was exciting at first, but got boring pretty quickly as most of the time I was just watching somebody mix or even waiting to watch somebody mix. There wasn't as much hands-on learning as I had hoped for, but I kept going in whenever I could, forcing myself to try and pay attention to anything and everything that I could. Well, the summer was pretty inconclusive. I just went back to school. But the senior engineer at the studio had told me he noticed my attentiveness and that I was never just on my phone to pass the time. This was the little bit of validation that I was looking for. Once I had finished school, I went right back to the manager of the studio with a plan. I proposed that I would work based off commission. So I would bring bands in to record and I could start to gain some of that experience. I was also taking any opportunity available to go in whenever there was a session and help out in any way that I could. Well, I never really brought in any clients, unfortunately, but I would go out to small venues in the area and talk to bands on a pretty regular basis. I made a lot of connections and shook a lot of hands with local groups, but being so young and inexperienced, it really just wasn't working out. The important thing was that I continued going into the studio and updating the manager on my endeavors, sitting in on sessions and just hanging around the studio as much as I was able to. I started to have a pretty solid grasp on how the studio worked and my skills were getting more refined. One day, I got a call from the manager of the studio. The normal engineer was not able to make a small session and the secondary engineer was out of town. I finally had the opportunity I was looking for to run a session on my own. And with all the assisting and practice I had done, it paid off. The session was definitely, at least somewhat of a success. I proved that I could get it done. From here, I started filling in for sessions more and more often, and eventually found myself with the opportunity to work with an organization that brought kids into the studio to record. It was my first consistent client. It was the perfect opportunity to get the ball rolling and start getting the experience needed to become a sought-after engineer. And this wasn't the case with only the studio. I applied this principle to all my freelance and part-time jobs. Just saying yes and making yourself available can really go a long way. This mentality has enabled me to make a living off what I love despite not being the most experienced engineer or having those fabled golden ears that you might have heard about. So I hope my short story shows you that it really is possible to make a living off music production and audio engineering if you're truly passionate about it. It sounds cliche, but people will take notice if you make it your priority and don't give up no matter the setback. There will always be fumbles and false starts, but these are also the best ways to learn if you can make the most of it and remind yourself why you're pursuing this path in the first place. This is the mentality that has helped me achieve a fair amount of success in this industry. As always, I would love to turn this conversation over to you. Have you achieved any amount of success in this industry? And if so, what strategies have you implemented to get your foot in the door? Let me know in the comment section below and I will be sure to reply. Anyways, hope everyone is having a great day and I will see you in the next video.